Welcome back. We are factorizing algebraic expressions. So we have 1a 16x squared minus 100. So 1a 16x squared minus 100. We need to look for a common factor between the two terms, 16x squared and 100. And that number is 4. So if we factorize 4 from 16, if we factorize 4 from this term here, which is here, it's the same as we are dividing. So we shall get here 4x squared. Okay? And when we factorize 4 from 100, we shall get negative 25 here. Yes. So factorizing this algebraic expression gives us 4 and in brackets 4x squared minus 25. But we shall not end here because we have seen that 4x squared is a perfect square whose square root is plus or minus 2x. Yes. 4x squared is a perfect square whose square root is plus or minus 2x squared. Yes. And 25 also is a perfect square whose square root is plus or minus 5. Yes. This is a perfect square whose square root is plus or minus 5. So we have two perfect squares, 4x squared and 25. So they are squares. Now we are getting the difference. So this particular expression inside here is a difference of 2 squares. It's a difference of 2 squares. Now the way we factorize a difference of 2 squares, we say, obviously, we get 2 factors. So from 4x squared minus 25, we shall get 2 factors. One will be negative, the other one will be positive. So, like we said, the square root of 4x squared is either positive or negative 2x. So we write our 2x here, just our positive 2x and here. The square root of 25 is plus or minus 5. So we write our 5, one of the 5's here and the other one there. So once we do this, then we would have factorized fully. So the square root of 25 is plus or minus 5. We write the 5 here and the 5 here. The position that negative 25 occupied. The square root of 4x squared is plus or minus 2x. So we write 2x here and 2x there. So once we do that, then we call it a day. Now, the way you identify perfect squares. Perfect squares are those numbers whose square roots are all numbers. Perfect squares are those numbers whose square roots are all numbers. For example, the square root of 4 is plus or minus 2. The square root of 9 is plus or minus 3. The square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. So when you look at these numbers, these square roots, they are not decimals. They are not decimal, so to say. So once you find the square root of a particular term or number and you get a number that has no decimals, then that particular number is a perfect square. Now, you can also look at the structure of a perfect square. 4 is a perfect square. Its structure is this. You can see you have 2 by 2. This is a square. 9 is a perfect square. Its structure is this. You see, you have 3 by 3. This is a square. 16 is this 4 by 4. You can see, so this is a square, this is a square, this is a square. All those numbers whose structures are squares are called perfect squares, and their square roots are natural numbers. Okay, so this is a simple test of how you find out which numbers, or whether those numbers you're dealing with are perfect squares. Okay, this actually helps in factorizing the difference of two squares. Okay, looking at B, we have 32x squared minus 50. So again, we need to look for a number that goes into 32 and 50. And that number is 2. That number is 2. That goes into both 32 and 50. So we factorize that one. And when you get 2 from 32, when you get 2 from 32x squared, you are going to have 16x squared. So you write it here. And when you get 2 from 50, you are going to have 25. Yes. So this is also one way of getting to know what will remain inside here. When you factorize a number, now you want to find out what will remain inside the brackets. All you need to do is just to divide this by this. 2 into there is 16 and x squared. 2 into 50 is 25, and you proceed. Okay, now when you look at this expression inside, it's a difference of 2 squares. It's a difference of 2 squares. It's a difference of 2 squares. So, having identified that one as a difference of 2 squares, you need to get the square root of this one, 16x squared, which is the same as the square root of 16 and the square root of x squared. Square root of 16 is plus or minus 4. Square root of x squared is x. Okay. You also get a square root of 25, which is plus or minus 5. Yes. So, you have the square root of 16x squared, which is plus or minus 4x, and the square root of 25, which is plus or minus 5. So now, factorizing a difference of 2 squares, you know you are going to have 2 factors apart from the 2 that you have. So one of the factors will be negative, the other one will be positive. Now, putting the number here and here, you get the square root of this one, which is 2, which is 4x, a positive square root, which is 4x. Write it here, 4x, also write it there, 4x. Now here, put a number here, you need to get the square root of that one. Write your 5 here and the 5 here. So once you do this, then you would have factorized fully. So basically, this is how you find out, this is how you factorize. Okay, I'm getting our last question here. Again here, you need to identify that this one is a perfect square and this one is a perfect square. Now, this is a perfect square, so get its square root.